Chad Ergun, CIO of Womble Dickinson. How are you?
Good, Tim. How are you?
Doing great. Welcome to the People in Legal podcast, and welcome to anybody who's clicked on the link here. And if you follow People in Legal, you might realize I am not David Wollstonecroft. My name is Tim Kenney. I'm new to the team, very happy to be on the team, but not new to legal technology. Chad and I were just talking about how we're getting up there in age, but I've been in legal technology for way too long, over 30 years, working for different consulting and software companies. These days, I have my own consulting business called 𝘁๸𝗸𝗄, where I'm helping legal technology companies gain traction and get more revenue through different go-to-market motions, partnerships, and expanding into different geographic areas.
Which is a great angle, by the way. I think there's so much focus on the consumer or customer end. There's not a lot of focus around vendor perspective. So that's a really niche area.
Great. I appreciate it, Chad. Thanks for the plug. I will pay you the beer that I said I would buy for you if you did that. So count it. All right. Anyways, welcome, Chad. For those who don't know Chad, I don't know where you've been. You haven't been in legal because I'm not saying you're old, Chad, but let's face it, you're pretty prolific. You're posted on LinkedIn. You're actually an author in a new book called The Future of Legal Knowledge Management, Harnessing Artificial Intelligence, which we'll talk about later. But I've known you for a long time. We talked about it's been a while. So I think first met you in 1998. You've had a really interesting career. Can you tell everybody about yourself and your career in legal?
Sure. I was doing the way I get into legal market, which is very unique in many ways. It's such a niche area, but I was doing my postgraduate program and my professor said, hey, forget about Castrol Oil Company. I was working in their headquarters in Wayne, New Jersey. He said, I found a different mining company, Sherman and Sterling. I'm like, isn't that a law firm? I looked it up. I didn't know. And he said, yeah, it's a data mining. These attorneys sit on years of collected knowledge waiting to be harvested. How is it different than, harvesting natural resources? He goes, this is much easier. Fast forward 20 or so years, I challenged that statement. It's not easier because there are a lot of complications. It wasn't that easy. But from Sherman and Sterling, I moved to Case, built their KM group ground up. And then from there, moved to Gibson Dunn. I took over client services as well as e-discovery group. When I first joined Gibson Dunn, we had 4 people in the group. By the time I left, we have 25 people in the group. So we built a great team at Gibson Dunn. So and then from there, I moved on to Davis Crum Stubbs and Lewis Roca and merged with Womble Dickinson, became their CIO. But throughout the whole experience, my lifestyle is that learn the business. You need to understand the business to serve the business. I think in legal technology, in so many ways, our IT mindset is so isolated in a manner that we only follow what we're supposed to do without better understanding every business. So every firm I've been to, one of my first tasks is to bring someone from each practice area. It doesn't have to be a partner. It could be a senior associate. Do lunch and learn, right? We're going to feature 60 minutes. Come in and teach our IT team what you do. And then I think during those days, we even did a study together that one day in the life of attorney X, right? So you follow the attorney throughout the whole life cycle of their day or their engagement, and then find out what they do. Because the idea is that the attorneys don't always come to IT for help. We have to reach out to them. For us to be able to reach out to them, we need to understand what they do and then focus on what is it that they do when they're not billing their time.
So you're a glutton for punishment, Chad. So you've been working with lawyers for how long and still doing it and actually enjoying interacting with lawyers? Have you learned some tricks over the years on how to maybe get along with lawyers and get lawyers to listen to what you're saying?
Exactly. I think they listen carefully. Their ears perk up if you speak their language, right? I tell people I speak lawyer, both state and federal, right? So I think you need to understand what they're saying. And because here's the deal. When they see someone with technology background, they already label you like SNL guy, right? The technology tech guy that says,
Right.
move over. Did you reboot your computer or stuff like that? So there's already a presumption that you're IT geek and you have no understanding of technology. The minute you start talking and you know, connect with them in common terms, they realize that you have the substance to back your technology initiatives, and then you can understand if somebody calls service desk and they tell the service desk, I'm in the middle of deposition. Right there, that service desk person have to know what their position is. What's it involve? What happens if they don't get the support they need? Because what if there's another person waiting on the call for a printer issue, or someone's asking for a matter site or due diligence site to be created? You have to better understand the business to serve our user community.
That's great. And obviously you've done a good job because you've worked your way up and really obviously CIO at a at major global firm, very well respected. ILTA, you're speaking at Clock very soon.
Yeah, I'm speaking at ILTA first, end of the month,
Okay.
and I'm going to clock. The Evolve conference at ILTA is about how to justify AI spending ROI. ROI AI is going to come. ROI AI is coming up. So I think there's a lot of pressure coming from the boardroom for the technology IT departments to invest in AI. That's one of those challenges. With the cloud conference, we're talking about 12 use cases using Copilot, Claude, and OpenAI, ChatGPT, three products, 12 use cases. So for each, and then we have someone from Microsoft, someone from their Sila team coming and join the group. And we also have someone from Anthropic coming and join
Wow.
the panel. So we're going to have a great session at Clock, because don't forget, Clock is our partners, right? Our colleagues on the in-house side. Unlike most of the ILTA is more our colleagues, where the Clock is more like the client side in-house team. So we would like to back, I think we're going to see both perspectives.
That's great. That's really interesting. It's funny. It just reminds me. I got an email from some recruiter, headhunter, something, and said, "Hey, we're paying people to tell us about. Can you give us information on these different AI tools for law firms?" They reach about which of you evaluated, which have you rolled out. They put about 12 of them in there. Some of the major players, then the
Yep.
smaller players. And I wrote back, I go, "There's nobody on the planet who's evaluated all of these." But
Yeah.
that session actually probably is as close as you can get, right? So
Yeah. So,
let's start there. So let's say, so Chad, I know we're going to talk more about your way into AI. You're very advanced, obviously written about it. But let's say you're not. Let's say that you're at a global firm. Let's say you're at a small or medium sized firm, and
mm,
Chat GPT, and let's say you've got three people in your IT department,
yeah.
and they don't have time to come to you. They're fixing, they're keeping the lights on. So how do you deal with this whole AI issue? It seems like there's a lot of horses for courses, right? And you're being presented things like, okay, so I do a lot of transactional stuff, so I'm being presented with this tool. I'm an IP, I'm being presented with this tool. How should you approach it? I might be fooling around with Chat GPT. I might be fooling
Mm,
around with Claude a little bit.
yeah.
How do you get into it? How do you harness your brain about the way you should approach AI?
Yeah, I will focus on a policy, right? I wouldn't focus on the tool, because buying a software for AI is not a strategy. You're out there shopping for products and bringing solutions to your user population without understanding the impact, right? Then look at your OCGs, outside consent guidelines, and see which clients are allowing to use AI. So for me, there are different use cases for AI, but you need a firm-wide AI tool, meaning that jack of all trades, something that does everything for you. For me, for most of us, that's Copilot, because it comes with already built into, if you have E5 license, you're already committing to Microsoft to manage your email and SharePoint and OneDrive. So Copilot works great because it can attach to your email, it can read your OneDrive folders, and so on, all the Microsoft-based resources. It also has purview control, right? You can also control like legal holds and ethical screens and so on using the labels and purview. So for me, my suggestion will be go get Copilot, because at the end of the day, Copilot has enterprise data protection, EDP. So Microsoft made a commitment a couple of years ago saying that anything that you do within your tenant is protected by Microsoft. So if you have a PI data or PHI data, it's safe to practice in that tenant of yours. When you go to like Harvey, CoCounsel, all of them are running in a different entity. You're doing software as a service, meaning that most of them are sending signal back to mothership. So rule number one for me is to prevent that interaction. None of your entries that you pasted in that chat box should be not be shared with your service provider. That's a no-no for our clients. Second no-no is that you never train your systems using client data. So don't ever do that, because the concern is just like stuff you put in the system, especially if you're using free solution, like US versus Hepner. Look at that case details, right? A couple of months ago, a US judge issued a ruling that your interactions with non-commercial personal AI tools are not privileged. They're not
Discovered.
subject to attorney. If your clients or if your small firms, shops are using those tools because they're free, nothing in life is free, right? So they're using your data to train system, which means that it's not your data, it's your client's data, right?
Yeah.
You're using client's data that given to you with a trust to give it to a third party so that you can get a free use out of it. That's not, I will,
Right. So go back to first things first, security
yeah.
and client wishes, right? So it comes back to, and if you're going to go there, then the Microsoft stack, you've been there for a while. We remember when everybody went onto the Microsoft stack around year 2000
Yeah,
and
yeah,
decided it's just easier to not
yeah.
fight the battle, just stay there.
It's also easy to deploy, right? You can turn on Copilot immediately and then you're protected, which is a good way to get into, dip your toes before you get in, commit to it. And then from there, measure how much value you're getting out of, Copilot. Buy one or two licenses on the side in the IT department, or pick your champions. Create a small group, because none of these tools like Copilot is going to improve itself. It's going to work without user input. So, and I think one problem that I see a lot of folks do this is that they use Copilot or ChatGPT almost like a Google search. You're not searching for keywords. You have to struct your, not just prompt, you have to struct your context, because we're moving from prompt engineering to context engineering. From there, we're now moving to harness engineering. It's the new term that came up, right?
Explain that, please. So the
So,
difference with the iterative prompts versus
yeah.
the harness engineering.
So if you think about the whole three terms as a car, prompt engineering is your engine, right? Context engineering is your dashboard, your display to see how fast you're going, if you need the oil change, your mileage, MPG, mile per gallon. And then harness engineering is the body of the car, like the brake system, warning system, the alerting system, and other components that put everything together. So I think what we realize is that when people move from chat-based interactions with their large language models, stuff, that input that you get from the response is itself is not enough, because it's not looking into context around it. It's not looking into, there's no harness to attach it down. So that's where some of the hallucinations happen, because you're not grounding your results. You need to ground it. You have to put restrictions and define those rules ahead of time, saying that, because I asked that question to folks and say, run a prompt for me. You're looking for a review of NDA, simple NDA you receive from a vendor. You upload the NDA and say, identify any potential issues. You're going to answer like this. But that's the wrong prompt, right? You're almost treating like a Google search engine. Right prompt should be, you are a senior associate, with a specialty in confidentiality and, corporate transactions, this and that. And then you practice in that region. You're trying to do this. Here are the variables. And then now you ask the question and say, if you are targeting a mutual NDA, what am I missing here? What are the points that I should push back? So one model that I tried a counterbalance, right? You get the output. Now you instruct the large language model and say, I received this from my outside counsel, and say, if this is a paid engagement, I received this input from my hired outside counsel, what points I should highlight. Now you're asking large language model to question its own original point by counter argument. Now, bonus point, if you use a different engine, you run this thing Copilot, you go to ChatGPT or you go to Cloud. I love LLM hopping. because you're putting one LLM against the other LLM, hopping to another one and saying, I got this thing as a response, highlight any points. Because don't forget, most of our clients, Fortune 100, 500 clients, already purchased these tools. They already have it today. So anything that we send out to clients today, most likely, very high percentage, I can't tell you the percentage exactly, very high percentage is being pushed through as some sort of LLM model. And I think our work as outside counsel, I think being questioned by in-house teams using these tools.
Absolutely. And I think we discussed this before, you and I, that, what's with the future of law, like, what is it going to look like? Who's going away? Because a lot of this work that the agents are taking over used to be done by
Yeah,
people, like the
yeah.
practice support lawyers, people like that. So
Right.
what it's going to look like? Do you think that uh, corporate teams are going to get bigger and law firms are going to get smaller and more specialized?
Don't forget what's holding down, what's the biggest complaint about in-house teams, right? They don't have enough people. That's why they outsource. They don't have in-depth experience. They have a very high level experience of what
Mhm.
things are. They need specialty. So if you have any kind of specialty, they usually outsource their work to specialized boutique shops. Now, what if those boutique shops are using AI to make their jobs more, streamlined? So now you're having an in-house team going out to a specialty firm company to do their work, and then the input that you get from there is a great training material for your environment. Like if you have an institutional client as a law firm for last 10 years, let's say you provide 1,000 documents a year, you have 10,000 documents, human generated content in the hands of your Fortune 500 company, which, by the way, was it the second thing that they complain they don't have? Money to hire additional
Right.
human beings, right? So now instead of hiring 10 associates at whatever the thousands of dollars is, I can get a product, right? I can get a Chat GPT or I can get Claude. Now I can ask Claude, hey, go analyze these 10,000 documents this outside counsel provided to me last 10 years. I just got this document yesterday. Compare that against the previous and give me what's missing, and then what happens if you have a panel of law firms. So now you're comparing my answer against the 9 other panel firms at your disposal with thousands of 80, 90,000, 10,000 each document. Now my answer being compared against thousands of documents generated in last many years. That's the shift, the paradigm shift we're seeing actively.
So, by the way, how do we get your book? I read Chad was kind enough to share the chapter of the book that he wrote is fantastic. And if you want to get really, if you want to get any background on kind of the progeny of how AI has moved along within law firms, it's fantastic. But my favorite part is that you kind of have hope. You really think that people are the difference, right, with AI?
Yeah.
Because I'll let you explain it. Well, actually, my favorite quote was, "Human skills are the defining factor for success when
Mhm.
it comes to AI."
Yeah.
So can you elaborate on that?
Because I think humans are the ones that have that judgment, experience or gut feeling or judgment element. The AI, especially if you work in a non-agentic environment. We don't have artificial general intelligence out in the market yet, right? But so if you're in a interaction, going chat, based interaction, you upload bunch of documents and say, give me a summary judgment for this case, or give me response to this NDA, or do this due diligence for me for this M&A transaction. So you're uploading a bunch of content, asking this, large language model to give you answers. When you look at the answers, you can, as the expert in that field, you've been doing this for a long time, you can see the thinking process. You can check all the references and then come up with a model, come up with either strategy, outcome. But last thing you should be doing, copying and pasting into an email, send it to client without checking all of those points. Attorney always have to be in the loop. Otherwise, we lose control of the content. And I think that's where people get into trouble. All those scary stories that you hear is about really smart individuals, professionals, depending on AI they build this trust factor. Like the way your favorite associates report to you, that favorite associate did not show up yesterday overnight, right? That favorite associate has been within working with you last 4 or 5 years. So you build a trust factor. Whatever they provide to you, you know that they worked really hard to produce that content. Unfortunately, as human beings, we are gradually building that confidence with large language models. Unfortunately, right?
Yeah,
So that's making us in that comfortable zone that anything I receive from this
oh, I
non
figure it's right. Yeah, you assume it's right. But I mean, that's the other thing too, is we put, so people think, oh, we've got all this data and we put all this data in here, it's going to come up with the right answers. But that's not correct either, because if a lot of that data is no good, or if you're putting in a lot of bad memos or bad ideas or just wrong ideas,
Yeah.
they become right. Um, because the agent doesn't know right,
Yeah.
legal right or wrong.
And I think the other part is just like they don't have long memory, like the context window, right? Claude reached one of the first one reached 1 million tokens, right? So you can fit most of Harry Potter books into that, not all, right? But then at some point we're gonna hit 10 million tokens. So million tokens is about 750,000 words. It's a small to medium litigation case. It's not an Enron case, right? So in order to hit Enron, you have to hit really millions of tokens to reach that. And the real why that token is important because it remembers the case. You don't have to keep reminding it. Someone with a memory loss saying that, hey, you remember you're that senior associate working in this litigation, commercial litigation case, and so on. It remembers, carries that context, one query over another one, prompt over another one. That's why I think the memory is going to be critical in return, that token capacity.
How do we get your book? It's
Oh,
fantastic.
it's published by the Global Publishing, and it's on my LinkedIn profile. It's linkedin.com/Chad Ergun. It's right there. I posted the link there to purchase that book directly. I contribute to the chapter that talks about the moving from chat-based interaction to agentic. I think the future for us is going to be agentic AI, because what agentic AI does is where it moves your one-to-one chat-based interaction to a group of actions that can give you full control over automating a case, automating engagement. Like a good example will be M&A due diligence, right? So you do the due diligence by reviewing a bunch of documents, and then, but you don't want to stay there. You want to take it to next level, create a memo to the client, or address any kind of complications or issues or follow-up. That's where creating agents come in. And we're going to see a lot of those in the future.
Yeah, what I thought was really cool was when you talked about mentor agents, right? So it's in the post-COVID era, right? That people aren't going to work as much as they used to, so the
Yeah.
associates can't glean all that tacit knowledge that they
Yeah.
might be able to get from the older associates or partners and things like that. And you think that mentor agents can really kind of close that gap?
Yeah. I think mentor agents also prevent biased approach, right? Because don't forget, your summer associates first, second year, they're so afraid to ask questions. If they're coming out of the law school with minimum real life experience, how could they approach their partners, and they don't want to be judged? So in return, they used to use Google to ask questions instead of asking their partners, but now AI comes in, right? The advantage of AI is just available 24 hours. If your mentor, partner is busy because they're swamped. By the way, you assign your associates to your most knowledgeable partners, right? To have the best relation. But those most knowledgeable partners are also the most with least availability,
Business.
right? They're not
Yeah.
available all the time. So now your associate can ask questions. What would the partner, let's call him Chad, what would Chad do if he had that kind of question? And the way you train that mentor agent is that you tap in that partner's email, you tap into their documents they drafted. Did they print a document? Did they edit a revision? What changes they made? So you collect this information using skills, and then you create a markdown file for each skill set. You combine it and then create this agent so that, and then you create these personas, mentors based on type of area or practice. So you have a bankruptcy partner, you have an IP partner, and then you can ask those kind of questions, or litigation partner, but those skill set must be built first. You can't just depend on agent reading bunch of files and emails, coming to conclusion. In a perfect world, you create the personas and specialties in every area. But this could be also future handling of the case. Like tomorrow, you have a new case coming in, right? It's an IP case about trademark infringement, right? So now you want to bring someone with a PhD level experience in maybe computer science or chemistry level, PhD level expertise, subject matter expert or expert witness. Now you want to bring a virtual paralegal. So you grab the IP paralegal from skills.md. So now you bring in a practice administrator. You bring a junior associate and a senior associate from background in IP. These are all agents. These are not human beings. So now you build a team and you're managing, you're orchestrating bunch of agents based on different skill set. So now you're, as a lawyer, you as a partner handling that case, your job becomes almost like a traffic cop. Your job becomes almost like a orchestration of agents. Normally, you will handle this kind of case with 4 or 5 timekeepers. Maybe you do it with 2 or 3 to start with. But at some point in the future, I think we're going to see, well, what happens if I design a top-notch bankruptcy, skill set and put into agent marketplace? And you'll be like, this is a high-end, and then you pay for that agent, for that expertise. So I think these are all future concerns or
Is
challenges.
the billable hour finally gonna die? Is everything gonna have to be quality pricing?
I think this is it, because if you think about this, what really stopped the innovation in legal technology is the billable hour, because it's very hard argument go in front of your management board, executive committee, and say, "Hey, I want to buy $1 million product so that you can bill $2 million less every year." Right? That's a very hard argument. When you make your attorneys more productive, your billable hours come down, which is a very, very wrong argument. But now I think it's coming down to, I think Anthropic General Counsel made that statement a couple of months ago, saying that in about a year or so, we're going to see end of billable hours. I think it's going to take longer than that. I think you still need that niche expertise, high-level expertise of a partner, but the low-level grunt work will eventually, because don't forget, we also have ABS challenge, right? Alternative business structures, 2 or 3 different states, you're allowed to start a law firm
Yeah.
without being a attorney or a partner. So if you're a venture capital firm or you're a consulting firm, what's stopping you from opening a shop in, Arizona, and then use AI, like start as an AI only law firm to handle low level work?
Yeah, there's a post I think I saw yesterday, or the day before, I think by Holland and Knight talking about COS. What is the acronym? Anyways, so anyways, essentially you got your lawyers running a law firm, but then you got business people running the
Yeah.
business.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly.
and that's where it's rule was it 4.5? Anyways,
Mm.
yeah. So
It-
law firms have been trying to get around that for years, or businesses have been trying to get around that for years, and
Yeah.
that's been something that the ABA has been really tough on. Is like Washington, you can have non-lawyers
Yeah.
owning businesses.
I think Utah, Washington,
Utah,
D.C., and
Arizona,
Arizona are,
Arizona. Okay.
yeah. And we have strong presence in Arizona, if you think about it. Because don't forget, the other element is going to be, because of AI, we're going to see a lot of shift in AM 100 to 500 level. I think AM 100 law firms have the budget, means, and expertise to catch up with AI and design solutions, right? Like our firm last year, when we saw AI picking up, when I took over this role, my first job is to build a team. I hire data scientists with advanced degrees. I hired machine learning specialists and specialists in designing solutions for AI. We call it Womble AI Labs. And our goal since last year, we're constantly hiring. We cannot get enough people, is to help clients, because we're seeing the value coming down to, if I work with AM 100 law firm like Womble, what am I getting out of my, forget about the billable hours or flat rates. What's the value added service I'm getting from this company, from this firm? Our angle has always been helping the clients, but we don't have that same luxury around AM 200 law firms. They don't have the advanced skill or capabilities to have what we have. So in return, what's going to happen next couple of years is that they're going to get either merge with several AM 200 law firms merging, which is going to push them to AM 200 level, or they're going to get acquired, or they're going to close their shops, right? We're going to see a lot of those firms, traditional law firms, being unfortunately closed.
Or the structure of law firms change, where actually
Yeah,
non-lawyers can actually
yeah,
own parts of law firms or take
yeah,
over the business. That actually would take care of that problem too, but,
yes,
uh,
yes,
it's all about the money. So
yeah.
anyways, I just wanted to share with people, so I don't know, like, your some of your personal hobbies I found so very interesting over the year. The background you have, Chad's in Denver right now.
Yeah.
Um, one thing that you told me that you did when you first moved to Denver is you've always wanted to give back to the community.
Ah,
Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you were actually working as CIO, but then also working as an EMT
Yeah.
at night.
So I started, yes, way before Denver. I started in New York. When I was in New York, I want to teach my kids in elementary school how to give back to community. And we have a small community in Westchester, did not have their own services. So I volunteered to be an EMT. I went to New York State EMT training every day, 3 days a week for 6 months or so. I went to after work at 6 o'clock, 6 to 8 o'clock. I went to training, became an EMT, then became a chairperson of the ambulance corps, and we changed everything. Like we went into full scale iPad patient record collection instead of paper and pen. We changed a lot of process, improve them. But I think I follow the same model that whenever I can, I want to give back to community, because at the end of the day, without that giving back, without sharing, same thing with ILTA. Like I was a mentor for ILTA. I speak whenever I can, whoever invites me, I don't mind sharing my experience. Some people see it in, especially in our circle of legal technologists, some people as a competitive advantage. I don't see it that way, because what I know cannot be replicated easily, but I can share my experience so you don't fall for the same errors. Like what I learned, my first firm, when we pushed the full scale AI, we brought Copilot, we brought Lexis Plus AI. What I realized when you get to the end is that your data is not ready for AI. So that's one suggestion I have, besides the compliance and security angle, is that make sure your data is ready for you to go spend multi-million-dollar investment, bring in handful solutions to your users, because if you don't have the right security, right location for your data, or you don't have the right infrastructure, meaning that if your data is on-prem and your AI product is in the cloud, you're going to play plumbing whole day. You're going to push data back and forth. So one of the suggestions I have, if you're serious about this AI adventure, move your data to cloud, create a reliable data warehouse. Most people, because it's not an exciting project, it's a backend project.
Right.
Most people don't see the shiny object in data warehouse. But if you don't have a reliable backend stuff, your AI projects are going to fail, because your users are going to ask question, right? They have the right engine, right stuff, but the backend data cannot answer those questions. If you have a document management system sitting in a different cloud provider, and your AI is sitting in your Azure tenant. So connecting those dots, you can do a lot of stuff, but at the end of the day, connecting those dots is going to be really complicated, especially if you don't have right controls in your document management system. You're going to end up exposing some of the data as part of that implementation.
Age-old thing, right? You have bad data, you get bad results. And also loading too much data to the cloud's very expensive. So would you recommend culling your data first?
Yeah.
It's worth the investment. You're promising everybody, because that can be expensive too.
It's not just data. Don't stop there. Go to a workflow process. So for me, the best model is matter lifecycle. You have a matter intake, starts with the conflicts. It goes into your, pushes the data into your financial system, HR system, and document management system or email. So that needs to be also streamlined, because without that, you cannot close your matters. You end up with inflated number of documents lurking around way past their retention cycles. So you got to bring your IG person, information governance person, into your AI projects, because without the information governance umbrella, you cannot justify your AI solutions to your clients. Because as at the end of the day, we as the law firms, outside counsel, are useless without our client data to start working on them, right? So they're handed over to us, almost lent to us to represent them. So we have to take care of that data and then use it for other purposes except for training.
Excellent. All right, so this has been so much good information. Any other last final words for anybody listening out there today?
Measure 10 times before, 9 times
That one.
before cutting, yeah. Because I think for me, planning ahead of time will save you a lot of headache. Don't cave in for pressure coming from the boardroom saying that, hey, how come we're not doing this? Joneses are doing next door. We're behind. FOMO kicks in suddenly. You find yourself in a very defensive position. Don't wait for that call to come in from the executive committee. Do your homework, do this ahead of time. And the second thing that I will say is that I'm always a believer in that early bird is better than second mouse, right? If you're early bird, especially in AI, you need to build that AI muscle. You need to get your people upskilled, because AI implementation cannot be done by IT alone, right? You need to transfer that level, hand it over to your users. Like, we built this AI champions team. We have several representatives from each group, each practice, and each department, not just for lawyers. We built this group. We're giving them elevated privileges after training them about security and compliance. But then in return, they're spreading that expertise to others. Look, if everyone at the firm should be able to create agents, you can't just control it, centralize it, because then you're going to delay this creative ideas by hiding it behind IT group.
That's great. Well, yeah, obviously you're very gracious with your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. And everybody, please go buy Chad's book. It's fantastic. And he'll be speaking at Clock. And what's the event?
It'll evolve.
What's it involve?
Yeah, end of
Fantastic.
April.
Chad
Yeah.
Ergun, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.